And we are live. Hello, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to Forever Red Devils for your Tuesday night show. And some pretty big news to talk about with a potential managerial pursuit from Manchester United, which really links up into yesterday's show, where we talked about potentially missing out on Xavi Alonso. Well, it looks like we might not be being as unproactive as initially thought, with United apparently already holding talks with a potential long-term replacement for Erik ten Hag. We'll talk about that. We're talking about Marcus Rashford and a potential exit for him, with three big clubs apparently in for him. And we'll also be talking about Marcus Rashford, the fact that he's busy trying to build a house at the moment, not going very well apparently, of all the weird news that there is surrounding Manchester United, and a story about Cristiano Ronaldo coming back to United with a question mark attached to that. So lots to talk about over in the sort of next 20 or so minutes. If you are new to the channel, make sure you smash a like on the video, subscribe to it as well. Let me know what you think of this main story, which is Xavi to United. Good or bad idea? And this is a very interesting concept. So let's get into it, shall we? I just want to load it up over here. Here it is. Right, here we go. Right, so reports from the Daily Mail said that Manchester United Chiefs have met with Xavi and have held talks over him, with the potential for him to take over at Manchester United, with four Manchester United Chiefs apparently flying over to Barcelona to talk about a switch. Xavi has not been been without a job since leaving Barcelona in the summer after a pretty good time over there as a manager, where he won the league in 22-23 as well as the Super Cup, but then parted ways with the club, which are doing very well under Hansi Flick, but a bit of a strange one how Xavi just wasn't given really the backing. And Manchester United apparently have lined him up as a potential replacement. Apparently this is not just a brand new story, but they have been monitoring him for a while and view him as a genuine option, where apparently the Chiefs flew out last week Thursday to speak to him during the international break. Obviously United going into the international break in a very bad time, so a good time to look at potential options. In terms of whether it's a good option or not, well, it's difficult to say. I mean, he's got a pretty good managerial record. You know, he's obviously was sort of over in Qatar for a while, where he sort of began his managerial career, then made the move to Barcelona. He won the La Liga, so he's already won a league title, but then left. Now, as was always, when it comes to Barcelona, there's lots of politics is probably the decent way of saying it, and things just didn't really seem to go well. It sounded like he sort of fallen out with the dressing room. You know, he had a couple of run-ins with some of the defenders, and he was then relieved of duties. He basically talked about the fact that he was potentially going to make a move, and he came out and said he was going to stay until the end of his contract, but then was basically sacked in May by the club president, Jean Laporte. So it's always difficult to talk about any sort of managerial career when it comes to Barcelona, because they're a little bit like United, kind of being a bit of a revolving door of managers, and there's so much politics happening in that club, so many different reasons that certain managers aren't working out. In terms of a style of play, he wants to try and play quite a good style of play, but to be honest, he talks about very much a man management type of style. He's worked with the likes of Van Gaal, Guardiola, for example, Luis Enrique. So he's worked with a lot of players who are very good man managers, and I think that's something that he apparently very much idolizes. Into his style of football, he has modeled it on sort of the Johan Cruyff, Pep Guardiola type of sort of manager. So he does like possession-based football, good passing systems, for example. But again, always continuously sort of emphasizes that man management aspect. And I think that is a very important part. These days, the modern coach, they're man managers, aren't they? You know, it's not just about getting, the right players in and the tactics. It's about how do you get the best out of those players. And the way you get the best out of those players is with good management. It's by finding out what makes those players tick, for example. How do I get the best out of every single individual player? and you put that all together, and then you can sort of try and eke out almost every single last drip of potential of ability and form and the likes. And so man management has become so incredibly important. And you look at the way Pep Guardiola's done it, for example, the way Arteta's now doing it at Arsenal. Potter was doing it really well at Brighton. I think Emery's doing it very well at Villa. Ancelotti he's the master of it, of man management. He's the type of manager who's got such a big profile that he walks into a club with an Mbappe, a Vinicius Junior, Jude Bellingham, and the likes, and he's still the biggest personality in the change room. He knows how to manage those different personalities, how to get the best out of those players. So man management maybe is exactly what United are missing at the moment. I don't think Erik ten Hag is necessarily a bad man manager. Charles is also pretty good at it. But I think we also need someone who's going to demand a lot. It's a very interesting situation. We talked about last night Xabi Alonso and the fact that Man City are potentially targeting him, and lots of different options for Xabi Alonso to go to. And I was speaking about the fact that it was imperative that United don't delay and don't miss out on a potential next great manager. And you have to be brave and make big decisions and basically decide if this is the manager you want, then this is how you have to go out and get him. And can't be sitting there going, but our manager's not doing too badly, so we're going to sort of continuously somewhat back him. We've got to be cutthroat because we got to do the best. And it's not about personality, it's not about egos, it's about who is the best person to take us back to the top. Right now, is Erik ten Hag the best person? And with the results at the moment, the easy answer is no. And so if he's not the best person, who is the best person? Then you got to identify the best person, and you got to go and do everything you can to bring them in. So if Xavi is the best person to bring in, you've got to go all out for him. If Xabi Alonso is the best person to bring in, you've got to go all out for him. As mentioned last night, we've missed too many managers over the years where we've been caught napping, for example. We've not been aggressive enough. We've sort of not made decisions where we needed to, and that has really hurt us over the years. We've missed out on a Pochettino, for example. We missed out on a Klopp. We missed out on, probably should have gone and looked at Pep, for example. So many managers over the years that we probably could have brought in and haven't, and we're now sort of paying the price. And if there is a manager available that Ineos believes is going to take us back to the top, pull the trigger. Pull the trigger. Don't wait. Don't stuff around. Pull the trigger. You've got to do everything you can to bring the change. So in terms of the story, for example, there's nothing too concrete about sort of a timeline and the likes. The fact that he is unemployed at the moment without a club does make it a very appealing option, because there is at the moment a quality of lack of quality of managers available, especially in the summer, for example. That's why many believe that Ten Hag sort of kept his job, because there wasn't a lot of options. If it was a time where you had several managers making moves and being available, then I think that we could have seen a potential managerial change. I think that they kind of just renewed his contracts. They kind of went, well, he's won 2 trophies, things aren't going too badly, and there's nobody really better out there. So there's no one really worth going and breaking the bank to bring in. Had the likes of Klopp obviously was available in terms of the next sort of type of Klopp, your next sort of Guardiola, had those sort of managers been available, you probably would have gone all in to try and bring somebody in. There was talk about, for example, Thomas Tuchel, and who's now gone obviously to England, and that being potential options. And so I think there were options, but not to the case where the best option possible was somewhere out there and available and ready to come. So now we've got to make a decision. You can't wait until you sort of sack Ten Hag and then say who's available. This is Manchester United. We've got to be better than that. We've got to be bigger than that. We can't be sitting there getting who's available. We've got to get who you want. It's that simple. It's not about who's available, who you want. So you sit there and listen, draw up a list, say, right, who are top managerial candidates? Draw up a list of 5, 10 people, a top 5, top 10 list. Then go and see who's available, who is attainable. Because some managers will leave. We've seen clubs buying out managerial contracts, for example. You go and get a pre-contract, and then they take the team to the end of the season and then make the move. We can be that kind of, you can be proactive to that sort of degree. You can go and try and get managers out of the contract, and then that's what you got to do. That's what you got to do. As I said, if you want to be the biggest club in the world, start acting like the biggest club in the world, which means going and getting the best players you want, the best managers you want, and being proactive. So whether it'll come true, well, we'll have to wait and see. But let's talk about Marcus Rashford, shall we? Marcus Rashford is being linked with a move away from Manchester United in January, with three European clubs interested, that being Bayern Munich, Montpellier, as well as PSG. Montpellier is a bit of a strange one. I mean, in theory, if Marcus Rashford were to leave United, you'd like to think we get big money for him. Bayern Munich, PSG kind of makes sense. PSG's obviously been a long time suitor for Marcus Rashford. During the Mourinho years, the Solskjaer years, they're continuously going after him and continuously interested in him. I think it's a club that he would do very well in. I think he would suit the environment. I think he'd enjoy living in Paris, for example. But he's starting to come right, isn't he? We're starting to see a Marcus Rashford that's more of the Marcus Rashford of old, who, everything he touched turned to gold. The assist this past weekend, the performance a couple of weeks ago in the Europa, I think we're starting to see the Marcus Rashford we really want to see. And for all intents and purposes, he's always come and said he really wants to stay at United, as long as United are worth staying at. And I think at the moment, we're in a bit of a weird situation. I wouldn't say we're clearly worth staying at. I don't think we are this be or an end all club where he should be saying no to lots of people. I do think that he is such an important player in the club that I don't think he'll necessarily be that important player elsewhere. But from a Manchester United point of view, I suppose the only thing that the good news, if he were to potentially go, is you should be asking for big money. And he's a player you cannot let go for anything less than 90, 100 million pounds. Genuinely, maybe sort of 80 at the very least. But he's got to be a big money transfer. Personally, if it was at any other club and in performance the last few years, you'd probably get 100 plus for him. Fortunately, we're just the worst selling club in the world, so that part probably not very likely. Now, I think the frustration is that he's been around during the worst possible times for Manchester United. He's seen the absolute crap. He's seen all the different managers, and it's starting to affect his career. I think that had he been in a top club where things were more settled, I think he'd have some phenomenal numbers. But he hasn't, which is the reality. And I don't think it's surprising that he has looked at his options over the years. He's always stayed and he's committed to United. The fact he's on about £300,000 a week probably helps him stay. But he is someone who is sellable, in inverted commas, in terms of he's actually quite a marketable player, one of the few that we potentially have. Do I see it happening? I don't think so, especially not in January. He won't go in January. That I think is quite clear. Maybe in the summer, if things don't go back well once again, he could potentially look at a move in the summer, and that'll hopefully be a big money move. But he's not going to go in January, and if he does, it'll have to be very big money, and clubs don't make that kind of signing in January. You don't make an 80 to 100 million pound signing in January, and he's a 80 to 100 million pound player. So I'd be very surprised if he is not sitting with United come February, for example. But the transfer mill continues to throw out rumours about him potentially making the move, and we see this story over and over again, haven't we? And hopefully, we'll see something coming off which really puts an end to all of this, whether it's a new contract, for example, whether United should start playing well enough for him to warrant staying around. I don't know, but hopefully we'll see one of those things happening relatively soon, and that he can get back to winning ways. Last story of the night is a return from Ronaldo to Manchester United. And that is an ex-Manchester United player who has spoken about this in Mikel Sylvester. So the story is that Mikel Sylvester says that it is only a matter of time until Cristiano Ronaldo returns to the club, and in some sort of capacity. Whether we won't probably see him as a player, but as an ambassador, if he does his coaching badges, for example. And this is what he had to say. He said, "I think it's only a matter of time before Cristiano Ronaldo reunites with Manchester United fans in some capacity at the club, but it won't be anytime soon." He said he's the legend of the club, and it'll be amazing when we see him at Old Trafford again, but it's too early to think about that at the moment, not yet. Yeah, and I think he's probably right. I think you probably will see him, either as a club ambassador. I think he still resonates a lot with Manchester United. I think the way he left wasn't great, but I do think that we might see him back in some sort of capacity. It's probably United or potentially Real Madrid. You don't really see Real Madrid ex-pros being as involved there, so I think there's far more scope for him to come involved in United. It'll be interesting to see where his son goes, for example, and the academy and that kind of vibe. But not anytime soon is the main sort of takeaway from what Mikel Sylvester is saying. Look, to be fair, I don't think there's any time of any plan of really retiring anytime soon. What would be interesting would be the reaction that Manchester United fans have when he does come back. They spoke about the fact that he didn't leave in the best circumstances, for example, and left on a sour note. The way he behaved, for example, he almost sort of forced to move. And I think a lot of Manchester United fans didn't appreciate that. Yes, he maybe deserved better treatment, but I don't think we should have signed him. I think we kind of got stuck with him and didn't really know what to do with him. I don't think he was adding too much. What's the word? Lost my train of thought. Yeah, so it did go in sort of awkward circumstances, but at the end of the day, I think, in theory, deep down, I think he'll still have a lot of love for Manchester United. I think when he spoke to Rio Ferdinand in his own channel, he spoke about how much he still loves United, loves the fans, but it was just time for him to go, and he needed to move on. So one day, maybe we'll see Cristiano Ronaldo again, but I don't think anytime soon. And we're going to wrap it up there for this evening. We'll see you guys all tomorrow morning for the morning show at 9 a.m. So make sure that you do turn the notification on so you get a notification when you get there. We'll be going live. Apart from that, please do smash like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well.